This is episode number 15, the very first episode of Monday Thoughts. Save your ammo for the boss. Welcome to the Doc Fitness podcast, where it's all about developing your mindset, training and nutritional knowledge so you can lose body fat and build muscle effectively while still living a real life. I am your host, David O'Connor. Now let's get into the show. How are we keeping, guys? And a big welcome back to the Doc Fitness podcast. And if you don't already know, like every Monday, I basically put up a post on Monday evening on Instagram where it kind of gathers my thoughts for the day in relation to anything. Usually it's kind of something that's perspective based, mindset based, kind of that kind of stuff to kind of make you think in the bigger picture with things, so you can just kind of move forward with kind of maybe mental roadblocks or just training or nutritional roadblocks, that kind of stuff. But there's often a training or nutritional trip in there or tip, and it always kind of comes back to that overall theme anyway of either building muscle, losing weight, etc, etc. So over breakfast one morning a few weeks back, Robbie, who was one of our coaches here in Doc Fitness, just gave me the bright idea of why don't you put these thoughts into an actual podcast episode? Because I am trying to get the podcast a bit more consistent, and sometimes these kind of posts as well, they're nearly better about talked about rather than kind of typed on Instagram. And when you type them as well, people can take them up a different way, kind of compared to the thought process I was trying to get across. So yeah, that's probably the long-winded way of saying welcome to the first episode of the Monday Thoughts. So what do I mean by save your ammo for the boss? Now, I heard this as an analogy on another podcast a few months back. Mike Isatel was the podcast host on that episode where I heard this analogy from, and I thought immediately just to share it with people. So basically it's like this. Fat loss is a lot like throwing grenades in a video game, or maybe saving up some ammo, right? You're not going to get rid of all your ammo and all your grenades at the start of a game when the levels are fucking easy. It's very, very easy to progress from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 when you're fighting shitty components. There's not much fighting. There's a bit of fight, there's a bit of change because it's still new to you and you're fighting these new guys. But then you're basically getting through those while using the least amount of ammo possible, so you can save it up for when the levels get harder, when you're aiming to fight for that boss, right? Now, the way that I kind of took this up is that, like, your ammo and your grenades in this case are the tools that you use to drop body fat, okay? Again, you need to be adhering to the overall principle of energy balance. So again, are you in a calorie deficit to drop body fat? The problem is people do that way too severely at the start. Like, every single diet under the sun manipulates that principle. Diets are not magic. Like, that's all they do. They manipulate the energy balance principle, so they put you in a calorie deficit. If one diet removes carbs, if one diet removes fat, if one diet has you eating fucking soup all day long, all it's doing is it's manipulating calorie balance, so you're eating less, so you're going to lose body weight. That's a simple kind of fact of it. What diets kind of usually miss the bigger picture on is resistance training, enough protein so you're not losing your muscle tissue, that kind of stuff. So anyhow, back to my point. So instead of getting rid of all your ammo at the start, you're throwing grenades at everything. Like, you're training as much as you can, you're eating as less as you can, you're doing as much kind of walking and cardio as you can. And then a few weeks in, you hit a fucking wall and you don't know where to go, you're burnt out, you're sick of it all, you're miserable because you're following a diet that you cannot sustain. That is kind of like using up all your ammo and grenades early on in a video game. You're using all your ammo against these easy components to get past, and you're not saving them for the harder levels when they come down the line. And like anything, if you're more consistent in that game, you're probably going to get through the levels anyway fairly easily. So instead, you'll hold them until the end so you can fight the boss levels, you can fight the hard levels and get to the end result, which in this case will be a certain body weight, a certain body fat percentage, or whatever your goal is for that point in time. And I just thought that was a fantastic analogy for it, like, because too many people, they just do too much at the early stages and don't leave any wiggle room at all for themselves. There is no need for you to go on a miserable diet. There's no need for you to go cold turkey from day one with your nutritional side of things. There is no need for you to hammer yourself 5 and 6 days in a week in the gym when you haven't trained in a year. Even starting with 2 days in the first week is going to be better than nothing. And even if those 2 days consisted of half an hour workouts that were based on kind of compound movements and just getting a feel for the body weight again, feel for what way it feels like in your back, or if you're, what way it feels like in general when you're resistance training. So then you can progress it there from 3 days a week. If you're getting 3 full body training days in a week and you're making progress with that, why would you go to 6 days a week all of a sudden when you don't need that? You're not Like most people that just want to lose some body weight, tone up, feel a bit better themselves, get a bit more confident, you don't need to be doing what a fucking bodybuilder does on Instagram, or this Instagram person who's pretending to train 5 and 6 days a week, and you're realising, okay, so I'm training 3 days a week right now, and I'm in the gym for about 45, 60 minutes. They're training 6 days a week. I have to do that straight away. Do you know, it's just a thought process that because you see someone else do it and they're in the shape they're in, you believe you need to do it. Like, things are not as easy as that. You need to take into account life stressors and all those other factors that are going to have an impact on your recovery as a whole and your enjoyment process as a whole as well. Like, you're not going to fucking enjoy throwing all your grenades from day one of things. Seeing results early on, which is great, yeah, it's cool and it's nice, but it's gimmicky. Like 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, you could probably get away with that. Most people even can't get away with that. Like, most people can't even get away with a couple of weeks before they hit a wall. But what's going to keep you going for the long term, so that you're building your knowledge over time, just like going through levels in a game, you're learning as they go on in the game. You're getting better at the game itself. So then when it comes to the times where maybe you're not losing as much weight now as you lost before, you're not progressing in the gym as much as you did before, you can start to kind of throw more things at that scenario so you can start making progress again, rather than fucking spending all your ammo in the first few weeks of doing something and hitting the wall and not knowing what to do from there, or just burning out in general. That is a very long-winded way to get around that analogy, but hopefully it's hit home on some point of things. Like I suppose the main takeaway is that don't underestimate the power of changing small things done consistently over time. What's the one small change you can make this week that's going to progress you forward in some aspect, whether it's fucking mental outlook is a bit better, your health is a bit better, you drop some weight, you're getting stronger in the gym. Like, one tiny change could even do all those things all together at once. One change, you know, it's just focusing on that one thing that's going to bring about that bigger result that you want, and not to fucking do what you've always done, which is probably throw way too much at the fan, take on way too much stuff that's unrealistic for you, and just end up hitting the wall. So hopefully that was helpful, guys, and if you liked it, do let me know over on Instagram as well, even if you want to drop me a private message, because that's kind of where I'm most active these days, or if you want to leave a comment on the blog. The show notes for this episode will be on docfitnessonline/episode 15 if you want to subscribe, or if you would be ever so kind to leave a review for me at iTunes, or if you listen to it on Stitcher, and I will look to getting this on more kind of platforms over time like Spotify and whatnot. But for now, thank you very much for tuning in. And actually, if you want to hear more from me throughout the week in general, like, and even when these podcast episodes come out, I know if you're subscribed, you'll get the notification on your phone and whatnot. But across the week, I send out 2 to 3 emails across the week that are just geared towards kind of listener questions, some of our client questions, and I put those into easy to kind of take away nuggets of information that you can read in 2 or 3 minutes. And sometimes then, like on a Friday, we'll have a weekly roundup email where it's a roundup of all the content that we would have shared that week, and just little tidbits to kind of get your brain flowing for the weekend ahead. So look, if you want to hear from me a bit more throughout the week, some people love them, some people don't. The link for those will be to sign up for in the show notes page on docfitnessonline/episode 15. So wherever you're listening to this, have a nice evening, have a nice day. Chat to you soon. Bye bye.